Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to math. Today we're gonna cover what we've been covering lately, okay, with the chart, where we had to convert them last class, okay. Now we're actually gonna simplify them, okay. So our objective for today is to solve each problem using the trigonometric identities on the chart, okay. Solve or simplify, okay. It's kind of the same word because technically all you're doing is simplifying. You can't really solve for a specific number unless it's just one. But for today, we're gonna need that chart we did 2 classes ago. Okay, let me get mine really quick. For the ones that don't know what chart I'm talking about, okay, we did this chart 2 videos ago. This chart on top, okay, as you guys can see, okay, it has quotient identities, reciprocal identities, and Pythagorean identities. Okay, we need to get familiar with them, learn them, because today we're actually going to use them. Our problem for today is we're trying to simplify, okay, something very, very simple. We'll start with something as cosine theta times secant theta, okay? So cosine theta times secant theta. This means that, okay, if you really look at this problem, cosine, it's already at its purest form, okay? When it comes to sine, cosine, and tangent, okay? They're always at their purest form. So there's nothing really to do to cosine. So what we're gonna do is leave cosine. Times, now look at secant, okay? The secant can be converted on that chart. If you look on reciprocal identities, which is the middle one, okay? There's cosecant, secant, and cotangent. The one in the meter, secant, it says 1 over cosine theta, okay? So another way of saying secant is 1 over cosine theta, okay? Notice that cosine, whenever there's a full number, there is a 1 under, okay? So we can say that if we have cosine, okay, we have secant, which the opposite is cosine, notice that we can cancel out cosine on both sides, on the bottom and on top, okay? We're left with 1 over 1, which technically becomes just 1, okay? This is why I say sometimes we're going to solve for them, sometimes we're only going to simplify them. This one we actually solved it because it became 1. Notice that we cancel out something from the top, something from the bottom that was the same. All right, this was a very, very simple one, okay? Keep in mind, again, we solved for it. Now let's do something a little more complex. Let's do okay? Again, keep in mind, guys, when you have something like this, theoretically, you could cancel it out because look, we have something similar. But Since you're dealing with two, break it into two pieces, okay? We have CSC theta over CSC theta, which is cosecant, minus sine theta over cosecant theta. Okay? I will say this. When you cancel this out, it all becomes 1. Okay? Technically, cosecant theta can go to cosecant theta one time. Okay? So we have 1. Let's use another color here. We have 1 minus sine theta over cosecant theta. Since we are dividing these two, we could say sine theta over 1 times cosecant can be created into another problem, okay? If you look again on the chart, for cosecant, we have 1 over sine. So this becomes 1 over sine theta, okay? Again, well, technically we're still dividing. We're still dividing here. But since we're going to multiply, okay, we're going to flip the second one. It's going to become sine theta over 1 times sine theta over 1. Since you have the same thing twice, sine theta times sine theta, it's just sine theta squared. So technically our problem becomes one minus sine theta squared. Okay? Probably was the wrong marker to choose there. Baby blue. So we have 1 sine theta squared. Okay? So far. Because remember, this became 1. This became sine over cosecant. Cosecant became 1 over sine. Okay? Since we have division, we ended up making a multiplication. Therefore, we flip the 1 over sine. Always flip your second problem. Okay? When it comes to division, convert it to multiplication. Remember, that's the rule for changing division into multiplication. Now that we have 1 minus sine squared theta. If we look at that chart again, if we really look in there, there is 1 in there that is kind of like this. Okay? The only difference is it is positive on your paper. Okay? We're going to leave it like this. Okay? We're not actually going to convert it because we already have a sign there. Okay? We're trying to convert it as much as we can. The only reason is if you can convert it to just a simple term, that is fine. But here, since we cannot convert it to one term, it's still going to be 2 terms. We're just going to leave it as 1 minus sine theta squared. Okay? All right. So let's do one more just for that practice. Make sure you have everything written down. If you didn't, go back on the video, pause the video a little so you guys can write down all the notes. All right, for our last problem, we have, let's use black again. We have sine squared theta over 1 plus cosine theta. Okay? Keep in mind, again, in order to make sine squared theta into its purest form, we can take out 2 sine thetas, right? Because sine theta times sine theta makes sine, sorry about that, sine square theta. So it's like saying sine theta times sine theta over, if we look at the chart, this can pretty much be converted. 1 plus cosine theta, okay? Which, if we convert this, 1 cosine theta, it becomes 1, which becomes sine square theta. Because we have cosine square theta plus sine square theta equals 1. If we move that 1 to the other side, okay, it pretty much becomes sine square theta from the chart. So it has sine square theta, which technically sine square theta becomes again sine over sine. So technically your answer is just 1. Okay. All right, guys. So again, you need to really look on those charts, okay, to convert your problems. All right. So I'm gonna give you guys your assignment for today. Your assignment for today is number 1, CSC square theta minus 1 over cotangent theta. Number 2 is tangent theta times cosine theta. And number 3, cosine theta times secant theta over tangent theta. Okay. All right, make sure you convert them as much as you can. Simplify, in other words. Okay, if you have any questions, let me know. As soon as you're done watching the video, make sure you submit your answers and your notes. Okay, guys, I'll be here waiting for your email.